If you could be anywhere else right now, where would you choose? Psalm 84 is a song for those who'd rather be somewhere else. And though we can't be certain about the psalmist's exact circumstances, one thing is clear. They are longing, even lovesick, for a place far away. That place is the temple in Jerusalem, the courts of the Lord. It's a place that's lovely to the psalmists. Their whole being, inside and out, longs to be in the temple. Why? Because it's the dwelling place of the living God. One of the convictions unique to the ancient people of Israel was that their God wasn't just a provincial God, but the Lord of Lords and King of Kings. That's why their scriptures open with Genesis, with a God who creates everything and everyone. But they also believed that God had chosen to dwell with them, to live among them in a special way. After rescuing them from Egypt, God instructs his people to build an ornate tent called the tabernacle. He then fills it with his glorious presence to be with them. Generations later, this tent is replaced by a permanent temple building, even more grand and spectacular. And again, God's glorious presence fills it, just like the tabernacle. God has come to live among his people. The psalmist's longing for the temple, then, isn't so much a desire to admire its architecture, but to be in the place where God dwells. They long for the living God himself. Verses 3 and 4 take it further. The psalmists reflect that, ornate as the temple was, no law prevented birds from nesting in its rafters. Perhaps they'd even seen families of birds there. And in this image, the psalmist sees something of God's welcome. Look at the birds they mention. Sparrows, you can buy 2 for a penny. Yet even they can nest in the presence of the Lord. Swallows apparently poo more than almost any other bird. They are messy. Do you see the point? Even the apparently insignificant and messy can find a home with the living God. And it's not just birds that find a welcome. The psalmists see the temple as a place they can call home. And so they sing, "Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere." And I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. A doorkeeper was a little bit like a bouncer. It's a pretty menial job. The psalmists who wrote this song, the sons of Korah, were themselves doorkeepers. Yet God's presence is so glorious that even menial work in the temple is a delight. How good it is to be in the courts of the Lord and to be near him in all his majesty. No wonder then that away from the temple, almost every verse of the psalm pulsates with a longing to be back there. Yet, rather than filling the psalmists with despair, it's precisely this longing which keeps them going. Journeying back to the temple would have meant passing through dry valleys, hard and thirsty work for weary travellers. But the psalm gives a striking picture. Because the destination is so wonderful, the journey isn't so much painful and hard as it is loaded with joy and anticipation. Strength to endure the journey builds as the psalmists remember where they're going. It's as if this hope makes even the dry valleys a place of springs, pools on the wayside providing strength and nourishment. They know they are heading home to the presence of God. The psalmists were far from where they wanted to be, but as they delighted in the welcome that awaited them, they found strength, even in the wilderness. They knew that in the bigger picture, they were on a journey home, and therefore no step was wasted. When you long for a destination, your journey there is transformed. You can know joy and anticipation even in the driest valley. Getting up at 3 a.m. to catch a flight is always painful, but you'll do it gladly if it takes you where you want to be. Hundreds of years later, the Apostle Paul described what it's like living as a follower of Jesus today. We live by faith, not by sight. We are confident and would prefer to be away from the body and at home with the Lord. As Christians, says Paul, we have somewhere we'd much rather be. We would rather be at home with the Lord, a home we cannot see yet, but which, by faith, we know awaits us. Jesus' sacrifice on our behalf brings us home to God. Even though our rebellion against him, our track record of choosing our own path, ought to separate us from God, we can find the hope of restored intimacy because of Jesus. Like the most insignificant and messy of birds, Jesus offers a warm welcome to each of us. And God promises a certain future destination to all who trust in him. It's a world made new, like a new temple, a place where God and humanity dwell together for all time, never ending, never fading. It's a place each one of us can call home, a true home where we find the deepest sense of belonging imaginable. It's a place free from suffering and tears, free from death, and free from wickedness. Above all, it's a place where we can enjoy the presence of God and which we'll never, ever have to leave. It's the place we were made for, the place we belong. In a sense, then, it's not surprising when we find ourselves longing and lovesick for this place. Psalm 84 tunes our hearts to long for this home all the more. And meditating on this wonderful future destination, we find fresh strength to endure the journey there. The dry valleys of this life may be hard, but a true home awaits us all.